Street girl fixes billionaire's classic car and gets a life-changing surprise. Ashley was trying to sleep under the awning when she heard the sound of a sputtering engine. The car stopped right there, in front of the abandoned building where she had been sheltering for 3 months. "Darn it, right now," grumbled the man in a suit stepping out of the silver vehicle. The young woman watched as he popped the hood and stared at the engine, clueless about what to do. She immediately recognized the model, a classic from the 60s, the kind she only saw in old movies. The engine growled in a way she knew well. "It's the alternator belt," Ashley said, slowly approaching. Richard Montgomery turned around, startled. He saw a thin black girl in dirty, torn clothes, but with eyes that sparkled with intelligence. "What did you say?" he asked, still processing the situation. "The alternator belt, it's loose, that's why the engine's misfiring," she explained, moving closer. "Can I take a look?" The businessman hesitated. This girl couldn't be more than 20, clearly living on the streets, and yet she was claiming to know about his classic car, valued at $200,000. "You know about cars?" he asked skeptically. "Learned from my dad. He was a mechanic," Ashley replied, already leaning over the engine. Before. Richard watched as her skilled hands checked components and tested connections. She grabbed a screwdriver from the car's toolkit and started adjusting something. "Try starting it now," she said after a few minutes. Skeptical, Richard got in and turned the key. The engine purred perfectly. "How did you—" he began, impressed. "Just needed to adjust the tension. But you should replace that belt soon, or it'll cause bigger problems," Ashley explained, wiping her hands on her already dirty pants. Richard stepped out of the car and studied her. There was something different about this girl. Not just her mechanical knowledge, but the way she spoke, her posture, her manners despite her circumstances. "How much do I owe you?" he asked, pulling out his wallet. "Nothing, just helping," she replied, already walking away. "Wait," Richard called. "What's your name?" "Ashley." "Ashley, you've got talent. Where did you learn again?" She stopped and looked back. For a moment, her eyes filled with deep sadness. "My dad had a shop. I grew up there with him. But that was another life," she said, then kept walking. Richard stood still, watching her disappear into the darkness. He got back in the car, but couldn't stop thinking about her. He drove just 2 blocks before the engine failed again, this time stalling completely. Frustrated, he grabbed his phone to call a tow truck, but something made him hesitate. He got out and ran back to where he'd met Ashley. Dear listener, if you're enjoying the story, don't forget to like and subscribe to the channel. It really helps us newcomers out. Now back to the story. He found her sitting on a piece of cardboard eating a stale piece of bread. "Ashley, the car broke down again," he said, panting. She stood up, concerned. "I told you the belt needed replacing. It must have snapped. For good." "Can you fix it? I'll pay well," Richard offered. "It's not about the money. You need a new belt. This model's old. Parts aren't easy to find," she explained. "What if I get the part?" Ashley thought for a moment. "Then yeah, I can replace it, but it'll take time. It's delicate work on a car like this." Richard pulled a card from his pocket. "Call me tomorrow. I'll get the part. And I want to hire you." "Sir, I don't have a phone," she replied, embarrassed. "Then I'll come back tomorrow, same time. Deal?" Ashley nodded, still wary. Rich men didn't usually keep promises to people like her. But the next day, right at 8 in the evening, Richard showed up. Not in the luxury car, but in a pickup truck with a driver. "I got the part," he said, showing a box. "Can you do the job?" "Here?" asked Ashley, looking around. "No, in my garage. It's safer and has all the tools," explained Richard. The young woman hesitated. Going to a stranger's house was dangerous. But something in the older man's gaze inspired trust. "All right, but I'm leaving today," she stipulated. "Of course, whatever you prefer." During the ride, Richard tried to make conversation, but Ashley replied with monosyllables. She was tense, alert. When they arrived at the mansion in Beverly Hills, her eyes widened. "You live here alone?" she asked, taking in the size of the property. "And with some staff. My family, well, it's complicated," Richard replied with a hint of sadness. The garage was a dream for any mechanic. Dozens of classic cars, state-of-the-art tools, equipment Ashley had only seen in specialized magazines. "Use whatever you need," Richard said, pointing to the tools. Ashley got to work. Her hands moved with surgical precision, every motion calculated. Richard watched, fascinated. In 2 hours, she had not only replaced the belt, but also identified and fixed 3 other issues in the engine. "Done, it'll run perfectly now," she announced, wiping sweat from her brow. Richard started the car. The engine purred like a contented feline. "Impressive, you have a gift," he said admiringly. "It's just practice," Ashley downplayed. "How much do I owe you?" "Let's talk inside. Would you like a snack?" "I'd rather get paid and leave," she said defensively. "Please, just a quick chat. I promise the driver will take you wherever you want afterward," Richard insisted. Reluctantly, Ashley followed him into the house. The kitchen was bigger than any place she'd ever lived. The housekeeper, Mrs. Jenkins, a kind woman in her 60s, prepared sandwiches and juice. "Eat slowly, dear," Mrs. Jenkins said, noticing how Ashley devoured the food. "Ashley, I'll be direct," Richard began. "I need a trustworthy mechanic for my collection, someone who understands these vintage cars." "You have mechanics much better than me," she replied. "Maybe more experienced, but none with your natural talent. I saw how you work." "It's different," Richard insisted. "Mr. Montgomery, I live on the streets. I have no ID, no address, nothing. How can I work like that?" "What if I helped you with that?" Ashley stood up, alarmed. "I don't want charity." "It's not charity. It's a job offer. You'd work here, earn a fair wage. You could rent a place, rebuild your life," Richard explained. "Why are you doing this? You don't even know me," she questioned suspiciously. Richard was silent for a moment, gazing out the window. "Because I recognize wasted potential when I see it. And because, well, I have my reasons," he said cryptically. "I need to think," said Ashley. "Of course, come back when you decide." "I'll be waiting," Richard agreed. On the way back, Ashley couldn't stop thinking about the offer. It seemed too good to be true. There had to be a catch. Rich men didn't help street kids without wanting something in return. She spent 3 days agonizing over it. On the 4th day, hunger outweighed pride. She returned to the mansion. "I'll work for you, but on conditions," she announced when Richard opened the door. "What conditions?" "First, no special favors. I work, I get paid, that's it. Second, if I want to leave, I go right then. No questions," Ashley stated. "I accept your terms. When can you start?" "Now, if you want." Richard smiled. He took her back to the garage and began explaining each car in the collection. There were 23 in total, each with a story, each needing specific care. "This one is my favorite," he said, pointing to a red 1959 Cadillac. "It was the first one I bought 40 years ago." "It's beautiful," admired Ashley, running her hand over the hood. "But it has suspension issues." "How can you tell?" "The way it's leaning. The left rear shock absorber is worn out," she diagnosed. Richard shook his head, impressed. "You really have a gift." In the weeks that followed, Ashley threw herself into the work. She arrived early and left late. Richard arranged a small room for her at the back of the property, arguing it was more practical for work. She accepted it temporarily, promising herself that as soon as she saved enough money, she'd rent her own place. But things started getting strange. Richard spent hours in the garage, watching her work. He asked personal questions she dodged. Sometimes she caught him staring at her with a strange, almost melancholic expression. One afternoon, while working on the engine of a 1967 Mustang, Ashley overheard a conversation between Richard and Mrs. Jenkins. "You need to tell her the truth," the housekeeper said. "It's not time yet, Jenkins. She's not ready," Richard replied. "And when will she be? You can't keep hiding this forever." "I know, but I need to be sure first." Ashley felt a chill down her spine. What truth was this? What was Richard hiding? That night, she searched the house for clues. In the library, she found an old photo album. Flipping through it, she saw pictures of a younger Richard with a woman and a little girl. The girl, in particular, caught her attention. There was something familiar about that face. "What are you doing?" Richard's voice startled her. I'm sorry, the door was open and..." Ashley stammered. Richard stepped closer, taking the album from her hands. "That's my daughter, Jennifer," he said, stroking the photo. "She disappeared many years ago." Disappeared. Ran away at 16. We fought over something stupid. She wanted to date a boy I didn't approve of. I was authoritarian, even cruel. She left and never came back, Richard said, tears in his eyes. "Did you look for her?" "For years. I hired detectives, offered rewards, nothing. It's like she vanished off the map," he replied. Ashley felt a wave of compassion. She understood the pain of losing family. "I'm so sorry," she said sincerely. "Do you know why I hired you, Ashley?" Richard asked suddenly. "Because I'm a good mechanic?" "That too, but mostly because you remind me of her. The way you talk, your determination, even your stubbornness," Richard confessed. Ashley felt uncomfortable. "Mr. Montgomery, I'm not your daughter." "I know, but let me pretend sometimes that things could have been different," he pleaded, vulnerable. The young woman didn't know how to respond. She left the library with a weight in her chest. She didn't want to be anyone's replacement. In the days that followed, the atmosphere grew tense. Ashley avoided Richard, focusing only on work. He, in turn, seemed regretful about his confession, keeping a professional distance. It was Mrs. Jenkins who broke the ice. "Dear, don't judge the boss too harshly," she said one day as Ashley ate lunch in the kitchen. "He's a man who suffered. He lost his daughter, then his wife to grief. He lives alone in this big house, with only the cars for company." "I understand, Mrs. Jenkins, but I can't be what he wants me to be," Ashley replied. "No one's asking that, just have patience with him. Richard is a good man, just broken inside," the housekeeper advised. That afternoon, Ashley found Richard in the garage, admiring the red Cadillac. "I'm sorry about the other day," he said without looking at her. "I had no right to dump my problems on you." "It's okay. I understand the pain of losing family," Ashley replied. "Did you lose your parents?" Ashley hesitated. She never talked about it, but something in Richard's vulnerability made her open up. "My father died in an accident at the shop. An explosion. I was 17. My mother, she couldn't handle it. She fell into depression, started using drugs. We lost everything. One day she disappeared, left me all alone," she said, the words coming out with difficulty. Richard looked at her with genuine compassion. "I'm so sorry, Ashley. No one should go through that so young. Life's like that. You learn to survive," she replied, turning back to her work. But Richard didn't let the subject drop. "What if we could find your mother?" "I don't want to find her. She made her choice," Ashley cut in. "Sometimes people make bad decisions when they're hurting. Maybe she regretted it," Richard insisted. "Mr. Montgomery, with all due respect, you can't fix my life to make up for yours," Ashley said, sharper than she intended. The blow hit its mark. Richard recoiled as if he'd been slapped. "You're right, I'm sorry," he said, leaving the garage. Ashley immediately felt awful. She hadn't meant to hurt him, but she needed to set boundaries. In the days that followed, Richard barely showed up at the garage. Mrs. Jenkins mentioned he was away on business. Ashley missed their talks, his company. She realized that despite everything, she'd grown fond of the stubborn old man. When Richard returned a week later, he looked worn out. "Everything okay?" Ashley asked, concerned. "Business troubles, nothing that concerns you," he replied evasively. But Ashley overheard the other employees talking. Richard's company was in trouble. A partner had swindled him, taking off with hundreds of thousands. Lawyers were in and out of the house. Richard spent hours locked in his office on the phone. One night, Ashley found him in the garage, drinking whiskey alone, staring at the cars. "I'll have to sell the collection," he announced when he saw her. "What? No, these cars are your life," Ashley protested. "I need liquidity to save the company." "I have no choice," Richard said, defeated. "There must be another way." "There isn't. I've explored every option. An appraiser's coming tomorrow to price everything." Ashley felt a surge of anger. Those cars weren't just machines. They were Richard's memories, his history. They couldn't just be sold off. What if we turned this into a business?" she suddenly suggested. "How so?" "A private museum or a rental service for events. These cars are rare. People would pay to see them, to use them for weddings, films, Ashley explained, the idea taking shape. Richard shook his head. I don't have the setup for that. It'd take startup money, marketing, a whole operation. But you have the cars, and you have me to maintain them, Ashley argued. You'd do that, commit to this project? Richard asked, a glimmer of hope in his eyes. If it saves the collection, yes, she confirmed. Over the next few weeks, Ashley and Richard worked tirelessly on the plan. They made spreadsheets, researched the market, drafted a business plan. Ashley discovered she had a knack for management, not just mechanics. But trouble started when they tried to put the plan into action. The first bank turned them down. So did the second. Suppliers wouldn't take seriously a business run by a street kid and a bankrupt businessman. It's not going to work, Richard said, disheartened after the fifth rejection. Yes, it will. We just have to think differently, Ashley insisted. Then she had another idea. She started filming the car restorations, posting the videos on social media. She showed before and after shots, explained each vehicle's history. Within weeks, the videos went viral. Ashley, a company wants to sponsor the videos, Richard announced, excited. It was the start of their turnaround. With the sponsorship money, they set up a basic operation. The first event was the wedding of a businessman friend of Richard's daughter. The red Cadillac was the bride's car, but success brought new problems. Nathan Montgomery, Richard's nephew, suddenly appeared after years without contact. Uncle, I heard you're running a new business, he said, all smiles. Nathan, what a surprise, replied Richard, clearly uncomfortable. Yeah, I thought I'd stop by to see how you're doing. And meet your new employee, said Nathan, looking at Ashley in a way that made her skin crawl. Ashley is my partner in the car business, Richard corrected. Partner? Nathan raised an eyebrow. Interesting choice of partnership. Ashley immediately understood what he was implying. I have work to do, she said, leaving the room. But Nathan didn't give up easily. In the following days, he showed up constantly, always with snide remarks, always trying to belittle her. Must be tough going from the streets straight to high society, he commented one day while Ashley worked. As tough as being a parasite who lives off his uncle, she shot back. Nathan turned red with anger. You don't know who you're dealing with, girl. Oh, I do. Someone who's upset because his uncle finally has someone he trusts around, Ashley retorted, staring him down. The war was on. Nathan began spreading rumors about Ashley and Richard. He claimed she was a gold digger, manipulating a lonely old man. Some clients cancelled events. Maybe it's best if I leave, Ashley suggested one night after losing their third client. Absolutely not. I won't let that brat win, Richard replied firmly. But the business? We'll figure it out. We always do, he assured her. And they did. Ashley suggested hosting an open event, a free classic car show to showcase what they offered to the community. It was a hit. Whole families came to see the cars and take pictures. New clients appeared, but Nathan didn't back down. One night, Ashley arrived at the garage to find the Mustang's engine destroyed. Someone had put sugar in the tank. It was him. I'm sure of it, she told Richard, furious. We can't prove it, Richard lamented. So what do? We fix the car and install security cameras, Richard decided. Repairing the Mustang took weeks. Ashley worked day and night, determined to save the car. It was more than a mechanical challenge. It was personal now. During that time, she and Richard grew even closer. He told stories about each car. She shared memories of her father, an unlikely but genuine friendship. One night, working late, Richard made a confession. Ashley, I need to tell you something about my daughter. What about her? I found out where she is, or rather where she was, Richard said, his voice trembling. Ashley stopped what she was doing. What do you mean? The detective I hired years ago finally found a lead. Jennifer got married, had a daughter. But she passed away 3 years ago, complications during the birth of her second child, Richard shared, tears streaming down. Ashley hugged the old man, feeling his pain. I'm so sorry, Richard, truly. The worst part is, I have a granddaughter who doesn't even know I exist. Her husband's family wants no contact. They say Jennifer never spoke of me, he continued. Maybe with time. I don't have time, Ashley. The doctors. I found out I'm sick. Heart disease, maybe a year too if I'm lucky, Richard revealed. Ashley's world crumbled. Richard was more than a boss now. He was family, the only one she had. No, there must be treatment, something. I'm doing everything I can, but I need to get my affairs in order. That's why this business has to work, understand? It's not about the money. It's about leaving a legacy, something to prove my life meant something, Richard explained. Ashley held back her tears. It'll work out, I promise. In the following weeks, she doubled her efforts. The business grew, and the cars were in demand for increasingly bigger events. Nathan disappeared after the cameras were installed, likely realizing his sabotage wouldn't work anymore. But Richard's health visibly worsened. He tried to hide it, but Ashley noticed his exhaustion, his shortness of breath, the frequent pauses. You need to rest, she insisted. I'll rest when I'm dead, he replied stubbornly. It was during an important event, the wedding of an influential politician, that everything began to fall apart. Richard fell ill in the middle of the ceremony and fainted. Ashley dropped everything and rushed him to the hospital. It's his heart. He needs urgent surgery, the doctor informed her. Then do the surgery, Ashley demanded. It's not that simple. It's a high-risk procedure in his condition, and, well, the insurance won't cover it. It would have to be private, the doctor explained. How much? The amount was astronomical. All the money they had managed to save from the business wasn't even close. Sell the cars, Richard said weakly from the hospital bed. No way, we'll find another solution, Ashley replied firmly. She spent the night wide awake, thinking. The next day, she made a tough decision. She went to Nathan. I need your help, she said bluntly. The little beggar needs me. How ironic, Nathan mocked. Your uncle needs surgery, it's life or... Ashley couldn't finish the sentence. Nathan turned serious for the first time. How much? She told him the amount. Nathan whistled. That's a lot of money. He's your uncle, your family, Ashley argued. Family. Richard cut me out of his life years ago, said I was a parasite, that I was worthless, Nathan replied bitterly. Maybe he was right, but that doesn't matter now. He needs help, Ashley insisted. Nathan fell silent for several minutes. I'll pay for the surgery, but on one condition, he finally said. What? You walk out of his life, disappear, let his real family take care of him? Nathan demanded. Ashley felt like she'd been punched. You can't be serious. I am. Take it or leave it. My uncle's life or your pride, Nathan said coldly. Ashley left shattered. How could she choose? If she accepted, she'd save Richard but lose him. If she refused, he might not survive. She spent 2 sleepless nights, tormented by the decision. Richard grew worse by the hour. The doctors pressed for an answer. On the 3rd day, Mrs. Jenkins came to her. Sweetheart, what's going on? Richard keeps asking for you, and you're nowhere to be seen, the housekeeper questioned. Ashley told her everything. Mrs. Jenkins was furious. That wretched Nathan, always a manipulator, she fumed. What do I do, Mrs. Jenkins? You fight, sweetheart. Don't accept blackmail. We'll find another way, the housekeeper advised. But what way? Ashley was desperate. Then she remembered the videos. She had thousands of followers now. Maybe she recorded a video telling the story. She didn't mention names, but explained how the man who had saved her from the streets, who had believed in her, now needed help for surgery. The video went viral in hours. Donations started pouring in, small amounts from people moved by the story. But it wasn't enough. They were still far short. Then she got an unexpected call. Ashley, my name is Jennifer Walker. I saw your video. I'd like to help, the woman's voice said. Mrs. Walker, I appreciate it, but we need a lot of money. I know, that's why I'm calling. I'm a businesswoman. I have resources, but I'd like to meet you first. Can I visit? Jennifer asked. Ashley agreed, hopeful. The next day, an elegant woman in her 40s appeared at the hospital. There was something familiar about her, but Ashley couldn't place it. So, you're the Ashley from the video, Jennifer said, studying her. Yes, and this is Richard, Ashley introduced. Jennifer looked at Richard sleeping, and her eyes filled with tears. How long has he been sick? She asked, her voice choked. A few months, but he got worse very quickly, Ashley explained. Jennifer stepped closer to the bed, touched Richard's hand. He opened his eyes slowly, focusing on her. For a moment, he seemed to see a ghost. "Jennifer?" he murmured. "Hi, Dad," she replied. Ashley nearly fell off her chair. "Jennifer, the long-lost daughter. It can't be you, how?" Richard stammered. "I saw Ashley's video. I recognized the cars, I recognized you. After so many years..." Jennifer began to cry. Dear listener, if you're enjoying the story, take a moment to like and especially subscribe to the channel. It helps us a lot as we're just starting out. Now back to the story. Father and daughter embraced, crying over years of pain and longing. Ashley quietly stepped out, giving them privacy. Outside, she found Nathan in the hallway, pale. "Did you see?" he asked. "Jennifer is alive," Ashley confirmed. "This changes everything. She'll inherit everything, I'll get nothing," Nathan lamented. "Seriously? Your uncle is dying, his daughter came back, and all you care about is the inheritance?" Ashley said, disgusted. Nathan left without answering. Ashley returned to the room hours later and found Jennifer still there. "Ashley, my father told me everything you've done for him. How you took care of him, how you saved the business," Jennifer said. "He did more for me," Ashley replied. "I'll pay for the surgery, and I want to get to know this special person who gave my father hope," Jennifer said. Over the following days, as they prepared Richard for surgery, Jennifer and Ashley talked a lot. Jennifer shared her story, how she ran away full of regret but too proud to return, how she built a life but always carried an emptiness in her heart, how she lost her husband in an accident and raised her daughter alone. "Why did you never look for him?" Ashley asked. "Fear. Shame. I thought he'd never forgive me," Jennifer confessed. "He searched for you for years." "I know. I changed my name, moved states. I didn't want to be found." "What a foolish thing," Jennifer lamented. The surgery was scheduled, high risk but necessary. The night before, Richard called Ashley. "If anything happens..." "Nothing will happen," Ashley cut in. "Listen, if anything happens, I want you to..." "No, you gave me the will to live again. You gave me a second daughter when I thought I'd lost the first," Richard said, emotional. "Richard, and I want you to keep the business going. You and Jennifer together, promise?" he asked. "I promise," Ashley said, holding back tears. The surgery lasted 8 hours. 8 hours of agony for Ashley and Jennifer, united in the waiting room. When the doctor finally appeared, he looked exhausted. "It was difficult, but we succeeded. He's strong," the doctor announced. The two hugged, crying with relief. Richard spent days in the ICU but recovered, slowly, stubborn as ever, complaining about everything. During his recovery, Jennifer brought Emily, her 16-year-old daughter, to meet her grandfather. The shy teenager quickly warmed up to Richard's stories and Ashley's knowledge about cars. "Can you teach me?" Emily asked Ashley. "Of course, I'd love to," Ashley replied. The classic car business flourished with Jennifer injecting capital and management experience. Ashley continued handling the technical side, now with assistance. They created a training institute for underprivileged youth to learn mechanics. Nathan tried to cause trouble, questioning Jennifer's legitimacy, but failed. He ended up distancing himself, defeated. Months later, on a sunny afternoon, Richard watched Ashley teach Emily how to change the oil in the red Cadillac. "You know, I always dreamed of passing my love for cars down to my family," he remarked to Jennifer. "And you are, Dad, it's just that your family grew," Jennifer replied, smiling. It was true. The mansion that once echoed with emptiness was now full of life. Ashley had her own apartment but spent more time there than at home. Emily came after school to learn about mechanics. Jennifer managed the business from there. One day, Ashley got an unexpected call. "Ashley, it's your mother." The world stopped. 5 years without a word, and now this. "What do you want?" Ashley asked coldly. "I saw you online in the car video. You're okay, thank God," her mother said. "No thanks to you," Ashley shot back. I know I don't deserve forgiveness, but I needed to hear your voice, to know you're all right." Her mother began to cry. Ashley hung up. She spent the day unsettled. Richard noticed. "What happened?" she told him. Richard listened in silence. "What do you want to do?" he asked. "I don't know. Part of me wants to tell her to disappear. Another part..." Ashley didn't finish. "Family is complicated, believe me, I know, but sometimes a second chance is worth it," Richard advised. Ashley thought for weeks. Finally, she called her mother. They agreed to meet at a cafe. Susan looked different. Older, thinner, but clean. Sober. "I've been in recovery for 2 years," she said. "I know it doesn't erase what I did, but..." "Why did you abandon me?" Ashley asked bluntly. "Because I was broken. Your father's death destroyed me. Drugs seemed like the only way out. When I realized what I was doing to you, I thought it'd be better if I disappeared, that you'd have a better chance without me," Susan explained. "I needed you." Ashley exploded. "I know, and I'll carry that guilt forever. I don't expect forgiveness, I just wanted you to know I never stopped loving you," Susan said. Ashley left confused. She talked to Jennifer, who understood complicated family relationships. "It took me 20 years to forgive my father and myself. Don't let it take that long," Jennifer advised. Slowly, Ashley let Susan back in. Sporadic meetings, short conversations. Susan worked as a cook now, living a simple but dignified life. Richard, ever observant, suggested something. "Why not give her a chance to work here? Mrs. Jenkins could use help in the kitchen," he said. "That's too much, Richard. I can't ask for that," Ashley replied. "You're not asking, I'm offering. Family helps family," he answered. And so Susan began working at the mansion. It was strange at first, but little by little the wounds healed. Mother and daughter rebuilt their relationship slowly and carefully. A year later, the classic car business was a city landmark. The training institute had already graduated dozens of young people. Richard, recovered from surgery, was back behind the wheel of his beloved cars. One special afternoon, he gathered everyone in the garage. "I have an announcement. I'm making official what's already happening. Ashley will be my full partner with 50% of the business," Richard declared. "Richard, no, that's too much," Ashley protested. "It's fair. You saved this business, you saved my life. It's the least I can do," he insisted. Jennifer fully agreed. Even Nathan, who showed up for the occasion, seemed to accept it, perhaps finally understanding that family wasn't just about blood, but life still held challenges. The building housing the garage was put up for sale by the owner. The price was astronomical, impossible to pay even with the business's success. "We'll have to move everything," Richard lamented. "We can't. This place is special. It has history," Ashley argued. They tried negotiating, asking for more time, but the owner wouldn't budge. He wanted a quick sale for a big development. Emily had an idea. "What if we did a crowdfunding campaign? People love Ashley's videos, your story. Maybe they'd help," the teenager suggested. It was a long shot, but they tried. They created a campaign sharing the story of the place, the cars, the lives changed there. The goal was wildly ambitious. In the early days, the donations were modest. It seemed like they wouldn't make it. Nathan, surprisingly, was the first to make a substantial contribution. "It's the least I can do after everything," he said, embarrassed. Longtime clients chipped in, former students from the institute, people who had rented cars for special occasions, but they were still far from their goal. On the last day of the campaign, when they were about to give up, an anonymous donation of significant value completed the amount. "Who could it be?" asked Ashley. They never found out. But they managed to buy the building. The garage was saved. During the celebration, Richard made another announcement. "I want to expand. Open branches of the Institute in other cities. Bring this opportunity to more young people," he proposed. "That's a big project," Jennifer remarked. "That's why I need all of you. Ashley for the technical side, Jennifer for administration, Emily for digital marketing, Susan for student coordination," Richard assigned. "And what about you?" asked Ashley. "Me. I'll do what I love most. Drive my cars and tell stories," he replied with a smile. The expansion project faced resistance. Bureaucracy, competition, sabotage from rivals. But with every challenge, their makeshift family grew closer. There were moments of discouragement, a branch that failed, a former student who got into trouble, and temporarily tarnished the Institute's reputation. disagreements about the business's direction, but there were also victories. Young people who found jobs after completing the program. Stories of perseverance that inspired others, recognition from the city for their social work. 2 years later, on an ordinary morning, Ashley was working on the engine of a newly acquired car when Richard appeared with a box. "What's this?" she asked. "Open it," he said mysteriously. Inside were documents. At first, Ashley didn't understand what she was reading. Then her eyes widened. "Richard, this is adoption papers, if you'll accept, of course. I know you're already an adult, but I wanted to make it official. You're my daughter, Ashley, in every way that matters," Richard said, emotional. Ashley couldn't speak. She just hugged the man who had changed her life, who had believed in her when no one else did. "Of course I accept," she managed to say through tears. The formal ceremony was simple, just family. Jennifer embraced her new sister. Emily gained an aunt. Susan cried, seeing her daughter finally have the family she deserved. But the biggest surprise was yet to come. Months later, during a routine inspection of the cars, Ashley found something strange in the red Cadillac, Richard's favorite, a secret compartment in the trunk. Inside were old documents and a letter. "To whoever finds this after I'm gone," the letter began in Richard's handwriting. Ashley rushed to find him. "What is this?" she asked, showing him the letter. Richard turned pale. "You weren't supposed to find this yet," he said. "Richard, what are you hiding?" He took a deep breath. "Sit down, everyone. I need to tell you something," Richard requested. When they were all gathered, he began. 40 years ago, when I bought the Cadillac, the previous owner told me a story. He said the car once belonged to a very wealthy man who lost everything during the dictatorship. Before fleeing the country, he hid his fortune somewhere and left clues in the car, Richard explained. "Are you saying there's a treasure?" Jennifer asked skeptically. "I spent years searching, following the clues, never found anything. Eventually I gave up, thought it was just a legend. But I kept everything in the compartment just in case one day..." Richard trailed off. Ashley examined the documents. They were old maps, codes, references to places around the city. "What if we looked for it all together?" Emily suggested excitedly. "It's a waste of time," said Nathan, who was present. "Or a family adventure," Ashley countered. They decided to try. On weekends, they followed the clues. It was like a treasure hunt that brought the family even closer together. They visited old buildings, libraries, and county records offices. Each clue led to another. They uncovered the fascinating story of the car's former owner, an industrialist who had been unjustly persecuted. They learned about a dark chapter in the country's history. After months of searching, when they were doing it more for fun than with any hope of finding something, the final clue led them to an abandoned factory on the outskirts of town. "Is this it?" asked Susan, staring at the crumbling building. "According to the maps, yes," confirmed Ashley. They explored carefully. In the basement, behind a false wall, they found an old safe. Inside, there was no gold or money. There was something far more valuable. Documents proving the former owner's innocence. Love letters, family photos, and deeds to properties that had been illegally seized. "We need to find his descendants," said Jennifer. The search for the heirs took weeks. Finally, they located an elderly woman, the industrialist's granddaughter. When they handed her the documents, she wept. "My grandfather died heartbroken, believing he had failed his family. This proves he was innocent. You've restored my family's honor," she thanked them. As a reward, she insisted on paying them a generous sum, enough to expand the institute even further. But the greatest prize was something else. "You've shown me there's still kindness in the world. I want to partner with the institute to help other young people the way you've helped my family," the woman proposed. That night, celebrating in the garage among the cars that had started it all, Richard raised a toast. "To family. Not the one we're born into, but the one we choose," he said. "And to the cars that brought us together," added Ashley. Everyone laughed and clinked their glasses. There in that garage they had almost lost was proof that the greatest treasures aren't material. They're the people we meet along the way, the lives we change, and that change us. Susan, now the Institute's coordinator, had helped dozens of young people avoid the path she had once taken. Jennifer expanded the business with wisdom. Emily prepared for college, determined to study mechanical engineering. Nathan, transformed by the experience, worked actively at the Institute. And Ashley? She kept doing what she loved, fixing engines, teaching young people, caring for the cars that were so much more than machines. They were memories, stories, symbols of resilience. One afternoon, as she worked on the red Cadillac, now fully restored, Richard approached her. "You know, when I saw you that night, trying to sleep on the street, something told me you were special," he confessed. "And when I saw this car parked, something told me my life was about to change," Ashley replied. "It did, mine too, for the better," Richard said. "Richard?" Ashley called. "Yes? Thank you for everything, for not giving up on me, for giving me a chance, for giving me a family," she said. "Thank you, my dear, for giving me hope, for bringing my family together, for showing me it's never too late to start over," he answered. They stood in silence, listening to the engine's perfect purr. Outside, the sun set, casting a golden glow over the gleaming cars. From the house, the aroma of Susan's cooking called everyone to dinner. Another day in the life of this unlikely family, brought together by fate, by love, and by a shared passion for machines that held stories. And so, the street kid who just wanted a place to sleep found so much more. She found purpose, a calling, a family. And the lonely billionaire who had only his cars for company discovered that true wealth wasn't in his bank accounts, but in the lives he touched, and that touched his. The classic car business became renowned not just for rentals, but for social transformation. Young people from all over the city sought out the Institute. Some came out of necessity, others out of a passion for cars. Everyone left transformed. Ashley created a special program for girls, breaking the prejudice that mechanics was a man's thing. Emily was her first assistant in this project, using social media to attract young women interested in learning. One day, half the mechanics in the country will be women, Ashley dreamed. "With you leading the way, I have no doubt," Richard supported. The relationship with Susan continued to be rebuilt day by day. It wasn't easy. There were deep hurts, moments of tension. But there was also the determination of both to heal the wounds of the past. "I know I'll never make up for lost time," Susan said one evening as they prepared dinner together. "You don't have to make up for it. You just need to be here now," Ashley replied. Jennifer, in turn, became not just a capable administrator, but a true sister to Ashley. They shared responsibilities, dreams, and occasionally arguments about the direction of the business. "You're too stubborn," Jennifer complained after a debate about new investments. "I learned from the best," Ashley shot back, pointing at Richard. The old businessman, now fully recovered, drove his cars daily. Every trip through the city was a celebration of life, of the second chance he'd been given. On one of those drives, he stopped in front of the abandoned building where he'd first met Ashley, now transformed into an extension of the Institute. It housed workshops and dormitories for homeless youth participating in the program. "Who would have thought," he murmured, remembering that fateful night. Success brought visibility, and with it, new challenges. Big companies wanted to buy the Institute, turn it into a national franchise. Politicians wanted to associate themselves with the project's image. "Never," was the family's unanimous response. "This is ours. It has our soul. It's not for sale," Richard declared in a meeting with interested investors. But there was one different proposal that caught their attention. A television network wanted to make a documentary about their story, about how a chance encounter had changed so many lives. It could inspire others, the producer argued. After much discussion, they agreed, with conditions: no sensationalism, just a focus on the message of overcoming adversity and the importance of giving opportunities. Filming lasted months. It was strange seeing their lives through the camera's lens, reliving difficult moments, celebrating their victories. "I don't like cameras," Richard grumbled. "Neither do I. But if this helps one young person not give up," Ashley mused. The documentary was a success. Letters and messages poured in from across the country. Young people in situations like Ashley's, entrepreneurs inspired by Richard's story, estranged families who decided to reconcile. One letter in particular moved them all. It was from a young mechanic from the countryside. "I saw your story and decided not to give up. I was ready to do something stupid, but you showed me there's hope. Now I work at a garage and help my sick mother. Thank you for sharing your life." "It was worth it," Ashley said, wiping away tears. The institute kept growing but always stayed true to its essence. Every young person was treated individually, with their needs and dreams respected. Nathan, completely transformed, became one of the most dedicated coordinators. "Who would have thought the spoiled playboy would turn into an educator?" Jennifer teased. "People change when given the right chance," he replied humbly. Emily, now in engineering school, developed innovative projects for classic electric cars, blending tradition and sustainability. "The future and the past can coexist," she insisted. "My granddaughter, the genius," Richard beamed with pride. On a special afternoon, 5 years after that first meeting, the family was gathered in the garage for a special occasion. Ashley had something to announce. "I know I've spent my life fixing other people's cars, but I've always dreamed of building one from scratch. A unique car that represents our story," she revealed. She showed them the sketches. It was an ambitious project, a car that blended classic elements with modern technology, sustainable yet with a vintage soul. "It's beautiful," Jennifer admired. "How long will it take?" asked Richard. "With everyone's help?" "A year, maybe 2, Ashley estimated. "Then let's get started," Richard decided. The car project became a family journey. Everyone contributed their skills, Richard with his experience and stories, Jennifer with project management, Emily with technological innovations, Susan making sure no one forgot to eat, Nathan sourcing parts and contacts. Young people from the institute joined as apprentices, learning hands-on how to build a car from scratch. It was more than a mechanical project. It was a life lesson in patience, persistence, and teamwork. There were moments of frustration, parts that didn't fit, systems that didn't work, debates over design decisions. But every obstacle overcome brought the team closer. "This is so much harder than I imagined," Ashley confessed after a particularly tough day. "The best things in life usually are," Richard mused. A year and a half later, the car was finished. It was a work of art on wheels, every detail telling a part of their story. The steering wheel, crafted from wood salvaged from the old building where Ashley once lived. The seats, stitched by Susan. The engine, a masterpiece of engineering that married the best of classic and modern. At the unveiling, they invited everyone who had been part of the journey. Former students from the institute, longtime clients, the woman they'd helped with her grandfather's paperwork, even the doctor who had saved Richard. "This car is more than metal and an engine. It's proof that when people come together with purpose, miracles happen," Richard said in his speech. The car was auctioned for charity, with the proceeds funding full scholarships at the institute. The buyer? A businessman who had been moved by their story years earlier and insisted on keeping the car available for exhibitions, inspiring others. That night, after everyone had left, the family stayed in the garage, silent, each lost in thought. "You know what's the most amazing thing?" Ashley broke the silence. "What?" the others asked. "That it all started with a loose alternator belt. If that car hadn't broken down right there, right then," she didn't need to finish. "Destiny," said Richard. "Or luck," Jennifer suggested. "Or purpose," Nathan reflected. "Or all of the above," Emily concluded. Susan served coffee for everyone, that special brew only she knew how to make. They sat among the cars, as they had so many times before, but now with a sense of accomplishment. "And now?" Jennifer asked. "Now we keep going. There are so many young people who need opportunities, so many engines that need fixing, so many lives waiting to be changed," Ashley answered. "And so many stories left to write," Richard added. Outside, the city slept, but there in that garage that was so much more than a garage, the family that was so much more than a family, planned the future. A future where every young person would have the chance Ashley had, where the impossible would become possible, where cars would be bridges to dreams. And so, between engines and memories, laughter and tears, challenges and triumphs, life went on. Rich not in money, though it had come. Rich not in fame, though it existed. Rich in something far more valuable: purpose, love, and the certainty that a life can truly make a difference. Ashley, the street kid who became a mechanic, a businesswoman, a teacher, and a daughter. Richard, the lonely billionaire who discovered that family can't be bought, it's built. Jennifer, the prodigal daughter who learned about forgiveness. Emily, the granddaughter who bridged generations. Susan, the mother who proved it's never too late to start over. Nathan, the nephew who found his worth in serving others. 6 lives intertwined by fate, united by love, strengthened by challenges. Living proof that the greatest treasures aren't hidden in old vaults, but in the encounters that transform lives, in the second chances we give and receive, in the courage to believe that tomorrow can be better than today. And as the coffee grew, cold and the night wore on, they remained there planning, dreaming, living, because they knew their story was far from over. Each day brought new challenges, new opportunities to make a difference. The red Cadillac, a silent witness to this journey, seemed to shine a little brighter under the garage lights, as if it knew it had fulfilled its purpose by uniting these souls, as if celebrating the fact that a simple mechanical breakdown had created one of the most beautiful stories of resilience and love. And so, dear listener, we come to the end of this heartfelt journey, a story that shows us how the problems that seem to knock us down can actually be bridges to our greatest triumphs. That true family is the one we choose, and that chooses us. That it's never too late to start over, to forgive, to love. The surprise that changed Ashley's life wasn't money or fame. It was discovering she deserved to be loved, that she had value, that she could make a difference. It was gaining a family when she thought she was alone in the world. It was realizing that her hands, calloused from work and life, could build not just engines, but futures. And Richard, his greatest wealth wasn't in collector cars or businesses. It was in opening his heart when he could have kept it closed, in seeing beyond appearances, in giving and receiving a second chance at life. Because in the end, life's greatest surprises don't come wrapped in pretty paper. They come disguised as problems, as chance encounters, as the courage to trust. They come when we choose to see potential where others see impossibility, when we choose to love where others would judge, when we choose to build bridges where others would raise walls. The end of the story. And what did you think of this touching journey, dear listener? Ashley found more than a job that night. She found a family. Let us know in the comments if you also believe in second chances. Your opinion means so much to us. If it moved you, leave a like and subscribe for more heartwarming stories with gratitude.